Hello, I'm Lana Meador, and I am the Associate Curator of Modern and Contemporary Art at the San Antonio Museum of Art. Our collection has over 2,500 photographs and includes 50 prints from Danny Lyon's iconic series, The Bikeriders. Danny Lyon was only 26 years old when he produced The Bikeriders and published this photo book in 1968. However, at that point, he had already gained widespread recognition in the early 60s for his documentary photography of the Southern Civil Rights Movement. He was the staff photographer for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And as with that project and the rest of Danny Lyon's photographic career, he is really focused on issues of social justice, often putting his lens on subjects or communities that are marginalized. His approach to photography is a pioneering use of the style new journalism. So for this, instead of, say, a more objective approach that you might see in a conventional newspaper or a magazine or periodical, he takes an immersive, subjective approach. So Danny Lyon is known for spending extended periods in the communities that he photographs. For instance, with the Bikeriders, he really photographed from the inside out. He actually became a member of and rode with the Chicago Outlaws Motorcycle Club and took these photographs between the years of 1963 and 67. The result is this photo book. So this is another pioneering photograph format that Danny Lyon is known for and has become highly influential. So the book includes the images he captured of the Bikeriders, you'll see here, but also a lot of text. He interviewed the Bikeriders in the Outlaw Motorcycle Club and those in his circle, and used those interviews here as first-hand accounts of their lived experiences. The Bikeriders and their friends reveal intimate details about their lives, but importantly also reveal the social and cultural context for the images in the photo book. Now this offers, an opportunity to create a story, a much broader narrative than you might see in a traditional news story periodical format for photojournalism. It allows for more nuanced detail to the experiences of the subjects that are being photographed. The 1960s, the period which Danny Lyon created this project, was one that was marked by a major paradigm shift of cultural values. We have, of course, the civil rights movement and political protests. It's a period between the World Wars and the Vietnam War. And this is reflected in many of the accounts in the book by some of the Bikeriders who share intimate details about their experience with the Army, with the draft. And what comes forward is that they're opposed to the establishment, that they represent this trend of counterculture and rebellion. And certainly that's something that Bikeriders became known for. In particular, this is documenting the lives of an outlaw motorcycle club. So motorcycling had become increasingly prominent in the period after World War II. We see films such as The Wild One with Marlon Brando coming out in 1953, or Easy Rider in 1969, just a year after Danny Lyon published this photo book. So it's really gaining widespread popularity across America. And part of that is because the idea of being a bike rider out on the open road really represents this kind of uniquely American sense of freedom, as well as it represents this idea of camaraderie with the motorcycle clubs. Now, there are many racetracks all over the United States, and the American Motorcycle Association was the one who kind of sanctioned these races and promoted safety. But the outlaw clubs did not play by those rules. And that's what you see here documented in Danny Lyon's The Bikeriders. Of course, there's issues of violence, criminal activity, partying, these kind of stereotypes that motorcycle outlaw clubs in particular became known for. But through this format of the photo book and through the images that Lyon captures, he's able to provide us with a richer understanding of biker culture and the outlaw motorcycle clubs. It's also important to consider the role of photography during this period was changing. So we have photography actually being more widely accepted as a fine art form. It was only in 1940 that the Museum of Modern Art in New York had established a photography department. And in the years after that, more museums began mounting exhibitions and collecting photography of their own. So we see it really becoming known as an artistic medium rather than just a strictly documentary tool. This image, which is the cover of the Bikeriders photo book, to me really captures that dual sense of freedom and camaraderie. So you have this group, some riding by themselves, some riding in tandem together on their bikes, just cruising down the open road. But what's notable here is we're behind them. We're seeing their backs, we're not seeing their faces. So their identities are somewhat concealed. And perhaps that allows us to kind of see ourselves in this photo or someone we know, to place ourselves in this moment. Also, you'll notice that the landscape is fairly nondescript. There's no major landmarks. There's no trees even. There's no natural landscape features that might define where this is taking place. It's hard to define even a time period that this photograph is taking place. And I think that speaks to this kind of collective experience of the open road. This could be anywhere in America at any moment in time. And Lyon is really keen in putting us right there in the photo, in the image, in the action with the bike riders. This picture also gives us a wonderful sense of a kind of community gathering of the bike riders coming together in an open field. We see a bunch of people in the distance coming together, but really the focal point here is the man's portrait that we see reflected in the side view mirror of his bike. Once again, this really shares Danny Lyon's immersive approach. To take this photo, he must have been very close to the bike rider whose reflection is seen in the photo. He must have been riding right on the back of the bike with him. And so through this composition, he really puts us in that same place of really kind of capturing a glimpse of this intimate moment, unbeknownst to the man, Cal, who's pictured here. When I look at this photo, I see, he's looking off to the side, outside of the frame of the photo. His lips are parted. Maybe he's about to say something. And so many questions come to mind. What's he looking at? What is he thinking about? What's he about to say? It really shares a moment of interiority, of complexity, of emotion and thought, of individuality that then stands kind of in contrast or in concert with this idea of the group and the community of the Bike Riders Club. This photograph is titled Renegades Funeral, Detroit. So we're looking here at a gathering of a group of bike riders for a fellow rider's funeral. It's a gathering of the group, but it's very different than the photo we just looked at. I mean, it appears much more formal in the way the subjects are dressed, the way they're standing. They're looking off the frame of the picture, solemn expressions on their faces, perhaps waiting for the funeral procession to come by them. We see an individual here again, kind of at the center and of the focal point of the photograph, and that's this gentleman with his back to us, wearing the Columbus Outlaws gear. And what really comes to mind when I look at this photo is how the metal chains and the studs in his attire really transform in this moment in the context of the funeral. They become more like a regalia, a military garb, or a ceremonial outfit that he's put on to honor the deceased. So transitioning from an attire that might symbolize power or intimidation on the open road here becomes more symbolic of honor, respect, of love. These are just a few of my favorite images from the Bikeriders series. I invite you to look at them and the rest of the series and other photographs by Danny Lyon in our collection at our website, samuseum.org.